Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me with Dragonfly Discussions. I am Cheyenne Jenvey, your host of our podcast together. Rhonda, hello. I know you're here tonight. Thank you for being here. Um, Let me read you the safe reading as always, and then we will begin chapter reading. We're in chapter 4. So I just want to welcome you to my podcast, Dragonfly Discussions. You're welcome to enter your name and location you are from. I am thrilled you are listening and hope you enjoy this session together. Also, a safe space reminder, just that I put this out there every time I go on air. Safe space reminder, please use your own safe space parameters. Amongst the chapters I read, as they may arouse emotions or memories of your own, you are welcome to excuse yourself or stay. And so I mean that, please. Sometimes I read things that are pretty touching to even myself. I've stepped up and stepped away because tears have came, and that's okay. It's good to feel. It's good to feel our emotions. So, and in reading these chapters with you brings back a whole lot of therapy and things for myself. So, just know that it's okay. So, we're on page 134. We are in chapter 4 now. So, this is after I was caught by the cops for the final time, and I go into a long term program. It starts out in Fresno for about 6 months, then it ships me off into another state for about a year, and then I go on to another state, and I mean state within the country of the United States. So we are now where I'm saying goodbye to my kitty cat. I had a kitty cat in my apartment when me and my boyfriend were arrested. We were running from the law and we were living out of our car. And so I had a cat and I begged the officers to save the little kitty. So they put him up for adoption. And the program that I got entered into after fighting my way at court, the judge wanted to slap a 5-year prison sentence on me. And this program helped me escape that by saying, let her finish this long-term program. And if she doesn't succeed, then you can have her for 5 years. So I had a kitty cat and I asked them to help me give him up for adoption because I knew he was going to be euthanized. So the program helped me say goodbye to my little Mojo. So Mojo got to go to adoption. That was his name. He was a black kitty. I have a picture of him. This is Mojo. I showed him in the last podcast session together, but that's Mojo and that's me, all tore up from drugs. My complexion is not good and all that good stuff. So that's Mr. Mojo. And he's named after Jim Morrison's song Mojo Rising. So if you want to know why Mojo, and I have Jim Morrison up on my wall behind this backdrop. So we are on subchapter Letting God In. And this is where now I'm starting to accept that I'm in a program. I need to finish this program. I need to really be successful. Okay. After saying goodbye to Mojo, I was able to focus more on myself and the program. I often thought about Mark. So Mark, for those new to all of this, Mark was my boyfriend that I last got arrested with. He was my last love. He was pretty much probably my only true love. He was an amazing man, but he got arrested with me too. And yeah, so he was on my heart plus my cat. I often thought about Mark and his situation because Mark was a parolee. So Mark's situation meant that he was going straight back to prison. There was no jail or any of that kind of stuff. Probation, nothing like that. It was straight going to prison, Folsom most likely, and that was going to be his future for the next whatever duration he was charged with. Um, so severe time in prison awaited me if I failed once again, so I didn't question it. I began to accept my new surroundings and learn the rules. It wasn't easy for me, and I wasn't the easiest drug addict to be tamed. I did not want to quit drugs. I did not want to surrender. Took me a long time to finally surrender. And I think it was facing serious time in prison that really woke me up. Um, Sometimes I would try to break the rules and I got in trouble a lot. Uh, During prayer time, we had to sit on a large pillow or the couch. So I entered into a Christian program that was all about reading Christian scriptures, Christian Bible, all of that. We couldn't have anything secular whatsoever around. A lot of the time, it was during the hour that the staff would be preparing our meals. So there would be staff preparing meals like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And then they would assign us girls, the students, to sit and pray and like kneel on couches and just literally put your head down and like pray. And most of us fell asleep. Once, because we prayed all the time. Once prayer time was over, we ate. The food was always so delicious and homemade. It was true. Like it was such good home cooked food. All of us girls would eat our meals at the table. So there was this huge, big wooden dining room table in this big Victorian house that was so gorgeous. On one side was like the living room, and in the middle was a foyer with a staircase that led up to upstairs. And then it was to the right, there was the dining room. And then off to that was a door to the kitchen and then into the backyard, which was huge. And it still exists here in Fresno. Um, I can't remember the street right now. But anyways, it still exists, but it's all changed now. Um, okay. All of us girls would eat our meals at the table. We would share stories about the day, talking about the changes we could notice happening in ourselves, just laughing and enjoying each other. So obviously, I'm consolidating a huge amount of time right there in that statement. So that was our normal routine, was breakfast, lunch, and dinner at that table, and we would often talk about whatever would be going on that day. I mean, we didn't have anything else to talk about, right? So um and we were growing and changing, and we were excited to be like, hey, I got 30 days here, and oh, I'm learning this, and I'm changing, and I'm realizing, and I'm loving myself, and I'm forgiving myself. And um so after every meal, the girls were assigned chores. So we all had to do things to clean up, just like a family. Just like you had chores in the family, dishes, cleaning the table, sweeping, mopping, feeding the animals, whatever it was. Um, After every meal, the girls were assigned chores and we would all help clean up as a team. The routine was strict. And for the next 6 months, I really began to change. I got more serious about my classes, less focused on gossip like the other girls. I began to read the Bible more and more. I dove deeper into the scriptures. I started to get good grades and memorize scriptures. I was liking the program and slowly beginning to make my stay permanent. So this was a pretty rigid program. Like you had to pretty much learn scripture, you had to memorize scripture, you had to write it out in King James version in the test format. It was, if you hadn't been to college, this was like college. And I had been to college, so it was kind of no different, but it was very, very rigid. It was very strict. And you had to do what they wanted you to do in order to pass and get on to the next phase. So you had to get good grades. You had to memorize scriptures. You had to do all of these things. That was part of the program. Um, So while I'm doing all of this, I brought to them the attention about me being exposed to hepatitis C. So if you weren't part of the earlier podcast sessions, I talk about a moment in an alley over on the west side where I used a dirty needle and it spoke to me, don't use me, don't use me, don't use me. I have hepatitis C. And I used it and I just knew I had caught hepatitis C. So instantly the clock started ticking in my brain how many years and whatnot I had to really get help and get treatment, because hepatitis C is a liver disease and it will kill you. And it's bloodborne, and it's often caught by people who use intravenous needles or bloodborne substances. So um, it was weird that the spirit spoke to me. And that's another thing upon my life where I was like, I heard like it spoke to me. I'm like, but I still used because I was just as sick as any drug addict. But I knew I had a clock ticking. So I brought it to the attention of my program. I remembered my hepatitis C and knew I had exposed myself to it again after the treatment I endured. So I went through the interferon treatment. I went through all of it, did what I needed to do, but I relapsed in the same time. So I finished it. And just at the tail end of me finishing the hepatitis C treatment, I relapsed and started using drugs. Um, so I remembered the time of catching it, and I knew how I needed to really tell somebody, because obviously I had risked again a life saving opportunity that I had because I relapsed. So I told the staff about it and I asked them if I could be tested to see if it was still gone, because it technically, the program, the interferon that I went through, it really did diminish hepatitis C. You can test me and it's undetectable, but I still cannot give blood because it's been in my system before. But I mean, it's quite a miracle that I survived this. So I asked the staff if they could take me to the doctor to get tested for hepatitis C. I waited for what seemed like months for the results, but when they arrived, the letter said no trace of hepatitis C found. What a miracle. I was cured of a deadly disease. I prayed and thanked God the whole day for his grace upon me. Now, I don't want to mistake anybody. I still have to be careful with my liver because it's always going to be scarred by that hepatitis C on there. But it's not flared up, it's not flaming, it's not alive. I have taken this treatment, this interferon I went through, and it like killed it to a certain degree. I have to always be careful of my health. I have to always know that my liver is compromised. So that's why I drink a ton of water, and I watch what I drink. It's obvious because I have a compromised liver. So um, that's what I mean by I don't have yellow jaundice. If I go into serious drinking, then yeah, it could really, really turn into something opposite. But I did what I needed to do and I caught it in time. And the doctors will tell me, you caught it in time. So I caught it in time before it could do real permanent damage on my body, which was another miracle that I want to express, because throughout my book, there's so many miracles upon my life. And that's why I have to tell my story, because it's incredible. So, um, so that's that about the whole hepatitis C stuff. And I'm really grateful for my dad. If it wasn't for my dad coming over every week, giving me shots and injections and saving my life, literally, I would not be here. I mean, he literally again helped save my life. Um, So let's see. I was cured of the disease. Then slowly my dad started coming around and visiting me while my mother. So this was when I'm in the program. So my family didn't come visit me. They got tired of me going in and out of programs. So they were like, we're not seeing you. We played this before. So only my dad still somewhat started to still come around and visit me whenever I was in a new program. But it wasn't right away because I was at Fresno New Life for 6 months. And I think it was about 4 months in, 5 months in, that my dad started to come and visit me. Then slowly my dad started coming around and visiting me, while my stepmother, stepbrother, and sister kept their distance from me. My grandmother and Leroy, so that's my birth mom's parents, my grandma and Leroy, and Leroy was a wicked grandfather, came to visit me too, which was sweet. Although Leroy had done many awful things to me, I was open to seeing him and letting him into my life again. By then, he was quite frail and weak, not the same evil man that he once was. His time was about to end, and he knew it. Leroy tried to apologize to my grandmother, but never tried apologizing to anyone else. It wasn't long till Leroy, my grandfather, passed away in 2005. Now, this was the most evil person I've ever met in my entire life. Talk about demons. Leroy, my grandfather, was the very first demon I have ever had to overcome in my entire life. My grandfather, evil. My grandmother showed me a picture of my grandfather's father, and it's in black and white, of course, because they're that old, but it looked like Satan. And I write about it in my book. It looked like Satan. So my grandfather was that evil, pure, pure evil. And my grandfather had done a lot of physical, not really physical, but psychological, I guess, psychological, mental, emotional things to me, verbally abusing me, like just wicked, yucky, just disgusting man. And he also abused physically, violently, my grandmother, and then my birth mom, my aunt, my uncle, me. So I wasn't sad when he died. He tried to make amends, but that was probably because he knew he was going to a bad place. When you are that evil, you do not go to good places. That's just, I don't care what spirituality or religion you want to have, but karma, whatever it is, there's sometimes you just can't be saved, and he's not in a good place because his spirit has come back to haunt me. Yes, it's yeah. Okay, so let's see, where are we? Let's not spend too much time on evil Leroy. So here we are, 2005. So he passes away. He passes away. And I'm like, I really felt happy because this was a demon that was finally gone. Finally gone. Of course, many people were sad, including my grandmother, but I wasn't sad at all. I was actually happy. I felt so free the day of the funeral when I looked at his casket and watched it be lowered into the ground. Leroy had passed away. And so would all his evilness that he spewed over me and many others. Goodbye, Leroy. Another demon down. And that's really true. He hurt so many people. He hurt so many people. I was beginning to make a lot of progress in the program. I was starting to see my faults and own up to them. I was starting to love and forgive myself as well as asking for forgiveness from family members that I had hurt. I also worked on forgiving those who had wronged me, including Leroy and Debbie. And Debbie is my birth mother. I continued to study and work towards the day when I would be sent to Dover, Pennsylvania. It was where the main part of the program was based. So you spend about 3 to 6 months in your intro center, wherever that may be. It could be Fresno, it could be Maryland, Pennsylvania. It could be all over, more over on the East Coast. And then you go to Dover for your main stay. So there is a building in Dover, Pennsylvania that is the shape of a cross. If you look at it from an aerial view, so you're looking down, it's a cross. And there's old photos you could pull up and you could see the area view and the original structural building of this sanctuary, I guess, this program. I mean, it's pretty wild. It's pretty wild. And you're going to read about this program, and it's still going on, and women are still being reformed and transformed, and it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. I hope to maybe someday go back. It's been like 20 years, but so there is a building in Dover, Pennsylvania. This is in the shape of a cross if you look from it from above. It is there that the New Life for Girls program is really based. So New Life for Girls. If you need a program to really help people, and I know it's a Christian program, but you know, it really has some wonderful benefits. And it's so beautiful being on that mountain. I would suggest New Life for Girls. It's in relation to Teen Challenge. Teen Challenge has men and women, but it's kind of in relation to Teen Challenge. So that's where the program is really based, is in Pennsylvania. Students must complete 6 months of classes there in Pennsylvania. So not on top of just the intro. Now you're in Pennsylvania, you have to finish all their regimen. So students must complete 6 months of classes, 1 month of rest, so now that's 7 months, 1 for transition into being staff, so now that's 8 months, and then another few months spent in another introductory center. So they expect you to do 8 months and then another 3 or 4, whatever. Basically, it's a year there, because they only have 2 graduations, one in the fall and one in the spring. And depending on your rotation, you're pretty much stuck in one of those dates of graduations. So it's a long-term commitment. It is at the introduction centers where you supervise girls that are fresh off the streets or jails. So you're kind of getting into staff at that point. Staff, volunteer staff. The program has only 2 graduations a year, April and October. For me, I was looking at October 2006 as my graduation year. So here I am entering in around 2005, and I got all the way till October 2006 to finish. So I did my 6 months in Fresno pretty much, and now I'm into Dover, and I'm going to finish a year there, and then I'm going to do another about 4 months in Chicago, and then come back. But I'm going to take you through the whole time of this wonderful experience in the most wonderful program that I could ever suggest to anyone. I mean, I've done CAP, which is Comprehensive Alcohol Program here in Fresno. I've done West Care here in Fresno. And then New Life for Girls. I did TLC, which is Transitional Learning Center. I think that was pretty much it. Yeah. So New Life for Girls was really, really an amazing program. And you're going to hear more about how awesome it was for me. So we're on page 136, Building Bridges, subtitle. As I grew closer to the day that I would get to go to Pennsylvania, I worked hard on restoring my relationships. It included my family members, myself, and my relationship with God. I made a lot of progress with my family, and to my surprise, they set up a beautiful 12-hour a day visit off the property. The program allowed us students to spend 12 hours under the supervision of a staff member to visit whomever we wanted that was healthy and positive for us. So my family got together and arranged for my brother, his wife, daughter, and my grandma Elle and my parents to wait for me at the Harrison house for dinner. So what that means is we got 12 hours. So whatever, 8 to 8. And so we first went over to, so it included, well, it was divided up. It was divided up between my family and then my birth mom side of the family, which I was really still close with my grandma. So let's see. I think the first part we spent at their place and then we left and spent it with my dad. My grandma on Debbie's side of the family got together and arranged for my Uncle Kay, along with his family, I'm sorry, Debbie and her boyfriend, and my grandma, of course, to wait in the morning. That's right, in the morning, for lunch in Visalia. So I spent my first half of the day, the 12 hours, like about 5 hours, 4 hours with my birth mom side of the family, which was kind of dysfunctional and not as healthy. So I got that out of the way, and then the last part was with my dad and all of my family that I was raised with and everything. And then I go back to the program. And a staff member is with me the whole time, watching everything, making sure I don't sneak drugs, drink anything, sneak anything. Staff members watching me. Finally, in late October, the day came for my 12-hour pass. I was so excited and nervous all at once. I hadn't seen some of these people in years. I mean, I had an addiction that took me away from all these people, and I was living on the streets away from these people. I hadn't seen them in years. I wanted them to see and believe that I had truly changed, that God truly delivered me from the obsession of drugs, turning me into the beautiful butterfly He promised me that day in jail. I got up early that day and showered, making sure I looked just the perfect for my big day. The staff member and I jumped in the car heading off to Visalia to see Debbie's side of the family first. We arrived at my Uncle Kay's house where I met his wife, son, and for the first time. I hugged Debbie, this is my birth mom, and met her boyfriend. By that time, Debbie and I had somewhat gained a decent relationship and were talking again, but still not writing. Like Debbie, my birth mom, was still very estranged, and I knew it was very sketchy to ever get close to her. It was crucial to keep her at arm's length to protect myself. I wasn't allowed to write to her, which was fine with me because she still wasn't the healthiest of people to have in my life, and she still isn't. She, I think, is out there, if not on the streets in Lindsay or locked up. Who knows? So I was cautious with her because I could tell she was under the influence of something. We visited, ate, and opened gifts. They bought going away gifts for me to enjoy while I was in Dover. Then it was time to say our goodbyes, and I went to Fresno to see my family. It was hard to say goodbye to my grandma, especially, but I hugged everyone and took off. My grandma and I were very close. I couldn't wait to get to the Harrison house, my home. My Harrison house is what I call it because we lived on Harrison in Fresno. It's right off of Palm and Clinton. And we lived on Harrison, and that was the street we lived on. So I called it the Harrison house. And that was what us kids called it. It was the Harrison house. That's what it was. The place where half my life was spent and where my parents were. So the Harrison house was where half my life I lived there. I hadn't been there in over 2 years. So I had been kicked out of this house for 2 years because of my drug addiction. I was ostracized, banned from the neighborhood. The cops were going to call if I came around. So now I'm being invited into this home, my home, and it feels really amazing. My brother, along with his wife and daughter, were there, whom I hadn't met yet. So this is the first time I'm meeting my niece. And I had already known my brother's wife, Katie, from high school. They were high school sweethearts. So I had already known Katie. Um, so I hadn't met her because my drug addiction took me away when she was born. So when my niece was born, I was away. My silly Grandma L came along, which Grandma L is my stepmom's mom. When I arrived, everyone came out to greet me. I couldn't wait to jump out of the car to hug everyone. Of course, I cried when I hugged my stepmother, and stepbrother. So did they. They were so happy, giving me compliments like how good and healthy I looked. Then we all walked inside the house, and instantly I could feel like I was home again. I felt warmth, love, happiness, peace, and pure joy, like it was almost overwhelming. To my surprise, my ever so thoughtful family put together a meal of all my favorites. So they knew my favorites and they prepared this wonderful meal. And that was just our tradition, was to have a dinner together and do what we always did. Just my dad would barbecue, my grandma would make rice, my mom would make a salad. It would be wonderful. So my father barbecued his famous tri-tip. My grandma made her delicious rice pilaf and chocolate pie. Oh my God, her chocolate pie is so good. And she made homemade crust, and she would press it with her fingers, and you could just taste the love. And my stepmother made a fantastic salad. Together we ate around the dining room table, as always, and enjoyed a fabulous meal. With every bite, I melted more and more into the food and into the family that I missed so much all these years. There I was, back in the very home I was banned from, returning to, sitting with all of them, surrounded by love and feeling so incredibly grateful for God's grace upon my life, for God's hand of protection during all those years struggling with drugs, for God's hand of protection, for God's amazing love and promise of truly turning my life around, bringing me back to my family, for his promise of transforming me back into the beautiful butterfly I always was. And I didn't know I was going to write a book this time, or at this point in my life, you know, but I chose the butterfly for a lot of reasons, because the butterfly is a transformative figure. And I talk about that as well later on, but it goes from a cocoon to a butterfly. So it sheds its wings into something caterpillar into a beautiful butterfly. So there's reason why I choose that. Not just the dragonfly. Finally, I was back and felt so alive, sitting there with my family, free from the chains of drugs. After chatting and laughing, I helped my stepmom clear the table and did the dishes. So that was always kind of my thing, was helping around the family, and my chores was doing the dishes or clearing the table. So that was my normal thing. And then that was also a way to connect. And in the kitchen is where a lot of connection happens, is, you talk and you do a lot of things as you're putting things away or you're cleaning, and it's just amazing what goes on in the kitchen. Um, I thanked her for not giving up on me and sincerely apologized to her for all that I had done to her. So that was when I literally looked at her and, owned up to what I had done and made amends. She stopped me and gave me a big hug, telling me that she never stopped loving me and how proud she was. Interesting. Because she did. She did tell me that. Even though things now may be different, um, She might have meant it back then. I don't know. Things have changed since writing this book. And that's interesting. Interesting. Okay. So we cleaned up and went into the living room where more going away gifts were waiting for me to open. My dad's side of the family were known for having tons of gifts, very spoiled, very, a lot of money. So there was always gifts. So my parents were so kind and purchased me a new Bible with a journal, a few phone cards to make phone calls with. So I didn't have a cell phone. You weren't allowed to have a cell phone in the program, unlike some inmates you would hear about. It goes on now. You can get a cell phone when you're in jail or incarcerated, and we couldn't do any of that. So there was actually a pay phone or a phone in the program that you had to go and talk at. It was like this little designated space, and you weren't in any kind of privacy. Anybody and everybody was listening to you, and it was monitored with minutes. So you would pay with these phone cards that you would buy 100 minutes or 120 minutes. You would buy these phone cards that would cost $25 for, I don't know, 100 minutes. So my parents got me these phone cards to buy minutes so that I had talk time on the payphones. Very old school, not like it is now. This is 2005, 20 years ago. Very different. Oh, what kids would do now. Okay, so they gave me some clothes and a beautiful cross necklace. So I used to wear a cross necklace. I was very big into wearing a cross necklace. It was important to me. It was kind of my symbolism of my spirituality. It was the only thing I knew of. So I would wear a cross necklace. Now I wear a UU chalice that's surrounded with the circumference of love. And so we'll go there at the end. Stick with me to many podcasts later. Anyways, God, that made me laugh. Okay. Before I knew it, time was up and I had to go back. So now my visit's coming to a close and I have to say goodbye to everyone. My 12-hour pass is up. I didn't want to leave or say goodbye. I hugged everyone for as long as I could and made amends again. So it was really important for me to own up to what I had done and the pain, to make amends, to clear my slate, because that's what they teach you also in AA and NA, is they teach you to admit your mistakes and make your amends. And, so and in essence, I was following in that path because it really clears your conscience, especially when you hear that they accept your apology, and you're just like, I'm sorry. Whether they accept it or not, it doesn't even matter. It's not even really about them. It's about you. It's about you doing that and admitting that you're sorry and making an amends really does something for you. It's not really about them. It is about them, but it's about you. It really does something for you. And I would seriously suggest anyone listening that they practice the humility of apologizing and owning up to what you did wrong. That holds so much weight to just your soul just being able to lift and just rise and just be forgiven. And wash that crap away, and all right, on to the next, right? Like, just we all make mistakes. So, but you have to be sincerely sorry. You can't just apologize and do it again and apologize and do it again and apologize and do it again. No, it doesn't work that way. That is an abuse of that. But when you are seriously sorry and you don't do that again and you change your behavior, that's what's really beautiful. So, okay, I'll get off my soapbox. All right. I hugged my father the longest, but it still didn't seem long enough. He told me how proud he was of me and that I truly was making the progress he had always hoped for me. He told me to focus on God and he will guide my path and my journey I was about to begin. I thanked him for everything, for never giving up on me, and told him how much I loved him. Reluctantly, I got in the car and waved goodbye to my family. It would be a year before I would see them again because Dover was pretty much a year program. Once you're going off to Dover, Pennsylvania, it's about a year. If that's the least, that's the least. Okay, so we are on page 139, subchapter Words Left Unsaid. During the short weeks left until my flight to Pennsylvania, I wrote 2 letters, one addressed to myself and one to Mark. In the letter to myself, I talked to myself in the mirror and the reflection that I could see. I hated who I was. And in my letter to Mark, I apologized for my part in his situation. In his ultimate destruction, leading him back to prison. So his situation. I owned up to my role in the mess that I got us into because it was me who relapsed. It was me who brought drugs back into our relationship. It was me who defiled everything against 2 heroin addicts trying to be sober. So I put him at risk, and it wasn't him. It was all me. So I owned up to my role that I got us in. I released him to God, ultimately allowing God to move in my life without the distraction of Mark. I loved Mark very much and recognized him as part of God's plan to get me where I was at that moment. Without falling in love with Mark, I would have never been led to the church that led me to New Life for Girls. So you see, there's kind of a pattern sometimes when people cross your path that leads you to somewhere that you won't even know. So it dawned on me way after when I was writing this book, it dawned on me that had I never met Mark, I would have never been led to the church that would have never led me to the program that saved my life. Basically, that saved my life. So the church that led me to New Life for Girls, which was helping transform me to be released from drugs once and for all. Following is an excerpt from the letter I wrote to myself while looking in the mirror March 9th, 2005. So this is pretty interesting. My first glance in the mirror is a weeping soul, a heart that cries, for my mind pierces into my heart and says how ugly I am, how unworthy I am, how stupid and responsible I am for people's failures, how incompetent and insecure I am, how fat I am, thinking I'm stupid and talking about me. How fat I am, and how everyone is looking at me, judging me, making fun of me, thinking I'm stupid and talking about me. My mind wants to see all the flaws on my face, the scars on my arms, the bumps, the holes from picking, the hair's gone astray, and the different shades on my face. It points out my yellow teeth, crooked smile, and wrinkles that appear when smiling or thinking. The side profile that isn't perfect. Over and over, my mind tells me these horrible things, which my heart tells me are not true, not from God, and only belong to Satan. My heart sees beauty radiating for miles, starting with my long eyelashes that accentuate my beautiful brown eyes. That in the sun, you can see the green halo around the edge of my pupil. My heart sees the smile that stretches from mountain to ocean and invites all who desire to laugh. My heart, which is from God, sees potential, confidence, strength, true beauty, joy, peace, and wisdom, yet fears to break out of her shell, out of her little cocoon. I am the ugly, growing caterpillar striving to blossom into a butterfly. So that's quite incredible. So the first part, like, I really can't believe I don't have the scars on my arms, on my hands, on my face that I put onto my body. I really never thought they would go away. And that's also another miracle and testimony to the power of God, is because, like, literally my face, I dug a hole into my face. I shaved and ripped off my eyebrows. I picked at my face all over. I mean, my chin, everything was so god awful ugly. I had track marks on my hands, all over my arms, all over my body. I had track marks. And like, it was never going away. Like, they were deep track marks. And the fact that I look the way I look is a true miracle. And like, to be reading this and to see the transformation is really unbelievable. And it's something to be said when you really truly surrender to the power of God and this universe and love and just beauty, and transform your attitude. Just your attitude. If you smile, it reduces all the sadness that you can feel. Like it changes your whole everything. Um, um, so, I really felt like I was this ugly, ugly, ugly caterpillar. I mean, God, there's some pictures, and I don't even know how I don't have them all, but like, I was tore up. I was tore up. But it was amazing what was happening. I was finally feeling good. Things were starting to disappear. Like, it was weird. It was just a miracle. And this is the excerpt. So I wrote 2 letters, right? So that's one letter to myself, and this is the letter to Mark. And this is the excerpt from the letter I wrote to Mark on May 27th, 2005. So we had March 9th, 2005, and we have May 27th, 2005. So I'm getting ready to leave to Dover. So I'm having like all this transformation going on and getting ready to go to Dover, Pennsylvania. Excuse me, I burped there. I don't know how to let go and let God, but I am at a point in my path where I must make a decision that will either make or break this year I have with God. I really desire this time with God to develop me, heal me, change me, and mold me. I feel this time is of the utmost importance. Therefore, my focus needs to be on Him. Please do not think I don't love you by doing this. I love you and myself more by deciding this right now. This is the best way I know how to love you from a distance, to let go of you right now. Allow God to move in our lives. And if it's meant for us to be with each other again forever, God will make a way for us to be together again. I want the old Cheyenne to die and a new Cheyenne to blossom. The only way for this to happen is if I make God my focus right now. I looked up the word surrender, and it means to resign of oneself or the possession of something into the power of another. So I surrender you to God. So I surrender you to God, Mark. So I basically just gave him to God and said, whatever will be between the two of us. But I got to focus on me right now, and I can't let you be a distraction. I got to really let go of you. And sometimes that's the biggest, hardest thing for women, especially, to be successful in their programs is their boyfriend that they had out there, and they don't want to let him go. And they think, oh my God, he's not going to be anything without me, or I'm not going to be anything without him. Girl, you are going to be just fine, and he will be just fine. You need to focus on what you really want for yourself. And if you really want help, you need to focus on you. And so I knew that. I was so done. As much as I loved him, I had to let go. And believe me, it was not hard. This is about like 6 months into my arrest. I was arrested in December, and I think I got into the program in January. So now here we are. What is this, May? 5 months into the program, and I'm just now being able to surrender. So I snuck around, tried to hold on as long as I could to him, but I wasn't growing, and I needed to let go and let just God take over in my life and his life. And that was that. That was that. I mean, I made the best decision for the both of us because he didn't need me latching on to him. I had already got him in plenty of trouble. So I needed to just focus on me and get help. So it wasn't easy. So here we are, page 141, and we're about 7 minutes to 8. Garden of Eden. Ooh, this is a really good one. This is a pretty heavy one, though, too. There's a lot in it. Garden of Eden is a really good one. Garden of Eden is where I go to Pennsylvania. And I arrive in Pennsylvania, and it's an amazing, amazing, amazing. Yeah, we don't have time to really go into it. Okay, so we're going to end. We're going to end here. Let me date it. And you know what's kind of ironic? Today is my stepsister's birthday. And my stepsister turned ugly on me. And about 5 years ago called me some ugly names, such as my birth mom. So I stood up for myself. And I've been 5 years standing tall away from her. So to stepsister, ugly stepsister. So I think of like Cinderella, I have an ugly stepmother, and now I have an ugly stepsister, and I have an ugly stepbrother. So to Jamie Ferris, my ugly stepsister, I hope you have a lovely birthday. All right, so we're going to resume. I know it's going to be around Thanksgiving time, but if you can spare your Tuesday evening, next Tuesday, we're going to get together on the 25th before Thanksgiving for just an hour, maybe shorter, and we'll read more of chapter 4. We're not going to finish because chapter 4 is a little bit longer than I thought. And then we'll just read a few for an hour, and then we'll say Happy Thanksgiving, and then enjoy your turkey. For those of you, Rhonda, whoever, you're welcome at the UU Church. We have Friendsgiving at 2 p.m. But thank you. We're going to resume next Tuesday. So that's that. This was fun. I hope you enjoyed it. And for those watching, have a wonderful evening. Know that you are loved, and we'll see you when we see you. Bye.